Hello, and welcome to an Average American podcast. My name is Sergey, and first of all, I would like to thank you for listening. I'm starting this podcast as a personal outlet to record and organize my thoughts on technology in America. I have always had a lot of ideas swirling in my head, and putting them into words helps me process them. I will be mostly speaking on topics that interest me, primarily technology. However, in today's world, technology is deeply intertwined with nearly every aspect of American life, be it politics, social interactions, work, or even personal relationships. So while technology will be the focus of the podcast, we will inevitably explore other connected themes. The name of this podcast is An Average American. It truly reflects how I feel about my place in this country. I am one of millions living and working here, navigating life like so many others. A little bit about me and why I consider myself an average American. My name is Sergey. I was born in Ukraine and moved to the United States in 1991. My family and I were fortunate to have this opportunity, and I'm grateful for it for every day. When we arrived, we had almost nothing. My first job was your basic blue-collar position, making $6 an hour. I worked like that for a whole year, and I got 25 cents an hour raise. I worked very hard driving in a truck in 100 degrees weather for 4 summers straight. Then I decided that in the long run, this arrangement really doesn't work for me, as it will be hard for me in my 60s to maintain that type of lifestyle. So at that point, I reevaluated my life choices and I went to college. I went to Georgia State. And 3 years later, I graduated with a computer science degree. I became fascinated with computers early on, taking up some coding classes in middle school when I was 11, way long ago. When I moved to America, I got my first PC in 1993. That passion led me to study computer science in college. In 1996, while still at college, I got my first programming job. From there, I steadily progressed in my career, gaining more and more responsibility along the way. My life and my love for technology has never faded. I continue to read, learn, and stay curious, mainly concentrate my effort around computer science. This podcast is the extension of that curiosity. I see it as a way to articulate my thoughts, challenge my perspectives, and hopefully grow as a person, as an American, and as a technologist. To be truthful, the beginning of my life in the United States as an immigrant was pretty hard. Working as a food equipment repairman for restaurants was pretty tough. I could barely speak English. I realized that I had to improve my communication skills. So I started listening to radio and watch TV on an advice of a coworker, who, in all honesty, was an American, and he helped me to get started on that road of obtaining and maintaining skills that helped me in my career to communicate with others. I honestly, early on, did not care what I listened to. He, on the other hand, was a big fan of talk radio and listened to people like Rush Limbaugh and Neil Boortz. So I started listening to those shows as well. My vocabulary improved quite a bit, and my ability to understand spoken English improved alongside with that. I listened to them for a year or two until I could thoroughly understand what they were saying, And then my choices in what I listened to shifted. I started paying a lot more attention to information I consume. I also started listening to audiobooks, which became my passion and another route to improve my English. It has been a long, long road for me. And look at me now. I'm showcasing my speaking skills on my own podcast. Why this podcast, you ask? Technology and its impact on daily life fascinate me. It's not just about gadgets or software. It's about how technology influences our lives, our interactions, our careers, and even our beliefs. And that is aside from politics. Politics are also very heavily influenced by technology, and almost anybody can feel how politics have changed in this country with the advent of internet. In this podcast, I'll explore the ways technology shapes modern American society. That means we will discuss topics like social networks, politics, friendships, love, work culture, education, and more. Technology is woven into all of the aspects of American life. Sometimes we don't even realize how much. Why did I choose to start a podcast? First of all, I enjoy trying out new technology and new hobbies. As someone who listens to podcasts regularly, I have found that format very appealing. Unlike reading or watching videos, podcasts allow you to consume content while doing other things, whether working out, commuting, or handling daily chores. The format is typically a short format, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and that format really fits my lifestyle. I feel like I'm not alone, and I think many people feel the same way. As far as what I listen to, it's a variety of topics and podcasts. Primarily, I listen to technical podcasts on programming and adjacent skills such as artificial intelligence. But I also listen to podcasts on society and finance. Now I'm using technology to create a podcast about technology. Isn't that funny? Technology has always been something that interested me as a tool to solve life's problems and help people. I use technology at work to solve problems for people in government. Our company, Tyler Technology, produces a variety of software for various government agencies. Our specific division works by creating software for people in local governments who manage licensing and land management. In my mind, technology is just a tool for problem solving. Lately, mainly in the past few years, the advances in AI have amazed me. Even a decade ago, I could not have imagined that technology would take such leaps in such short period of time. What I want to talk about the most in this podcast is how rapidly advancing technology can improve people's lives. Who is this podcast for? Honestly, this podcast is mainly for me. Call it selfish, but I enjoy thinking deeply about complex topics, and speaking them out loud forces me to organize my thoughts and come to reasonable conclusions, provided the information that's available. At work, I solve problems best when I write them down. Podcasting feels like an extension of that process. Only instead of work-related challenges, I'll be tackling broader topics that impact everyday life. That said, I believe my experiences and perspectives are relatable. I consider myself a fairly typical American, as I suspect that many of my thoughts and questions would resonate with others. What I mean by average, I have an average white-collar job. I have 3 kids, slightly above the average. I have a house. I have a family. I have friends. I have hobbies. I go to work. I come home and do something fun. So if you're someone who enjoys exploring ideas, questioning trends, and thinking critically, you might find some valuable crumbs in my ramblings on this podcast. Will I have guests? Maybe, probably. We shall see how things evolve. I'm starting by just burdening myself with this podcast. When I think about an average listener, I think about a person who is simply curious about how technology, any kind of technology, can improve their life. I am the same way. I want to see how I can live a more fulfilling life by using the advances that humankind has made in information technology, audio technology, or any other field. I don't want to exclude any technology, whether it's medical equipment or cars or anything else. I hope that at least some of what I talk about would interest others. Maybe at least one more person. Maybe it's just my wife who would feel obligated to listen to this. Worst case scenario, I'll talk about what interests me and I'll be the only one listening. I've already shared a bit about my background, but want to add a little bit more color. I got married in '98 and have a wonderful family. My wife and I raised 3 wonderful children, all of whom are now out of the house and even out of our state. That's in part of why I picked up new hobbies over the years. I want to go over them because podcasting kind of fits into the big picture of who I am. Physical fitness has been a constant in my life. Despite some physical challenges and conditions, I've been working out for decades, and it remains my number one hobby. I got my first LA Fitness, or Bally's at that time, pass in 1993. So I've been working out consistently for a few days a week for 30 years. Besides exercise, I also love consuming knowledge, whether through podcasts, audiobooks, or reading. I keep up with technology also through blogs. I also started a technical book club at our place of work. We read 3 or 4 technical books a year, and then we discuss them as the group, try to share thoughts and ideas, and also advance our careers. Recently, I picked up an oil painting at my old age for the first time. I really love it because it tickles my creative brain. I also picked up target shooting. I bought my first gun recently. Interestingly enough, that's also a piece of technology that looks simple, but a lot of people put a lot of thought into creating reliable weapons. And yes, they could hurt other people, but that can also be used for protection and fun. Podcasting is just the latest of my long list of ever-growing hobbies. My career is what pays for all those hobbies. I've had many interesting moments in my IT career. I wrote my first piece of software in, I hate to date myself, but it was mid-70s. And I continued to study programming in middle school, then high school. Then I took a long break because, as I mentioned before, our family moved from Ukraine to America, and I got my first blue-collar job. I got my first paid American job in programming almost 30 years ago. It is amazing how time has flown by. I've had the privilege of working with many talented, smart people. But the biggest leap in my career came when I started working for Tyler Technologies over a decade ago. It's such a great company. It helped me grow professionally at a tremendous pace. I worked with very good people, and more importantly, I solved problems for our users with our software. Before Tyler, I worked for a couple of companies that I want to mention because they impacted my life quite a bit. My first programming job was at Horizon Software here in Atlanta area. And there I worked with talented programmers for a very smart, although a bit harsh businessman. And it helped me grow professionally as a programmer, but also helped me grow emotionally by teaching me how to talk to people and how to interact with them and how to learn from them. Then I worked for Magenic, and I think working for Magenic Technologies, working with super smart Microsoft MVP caliber people helped me grow my technical skills at an ever-increasing pace. I myself was a Microsoft MVP for 7 years. If you're not familiar with that program, Microsoft MVP is a non-paid position with primary responsibility of simply evangelizing Microsoft technology in the community by speaking, by interacting with people, putting up community events, and I did that for many, many years. Then, through some personal circumstances, I left Magenic and I started working for Tyler. I want to touch a little bit on the format and future topics. I haven't fully decided on the frequency yet. My goal is to release episodes weekly, but I am not sure if I can keep up with that pace. The reason for that is some topics are so broad and require me to do actually my personal research so I can adequately describe that specific technology. My first topic is going to be AI, and it's likely going to take me many days, many hours of research to give it justice. Nonetheless, I will do my best to put out a weekly episode. I want these episodes to feel more like discussions with a friend, be casual, yet thought-provoking and educational. I will do my best to avoid rage farming, a common tactic used by many podcasts and media outlets to provoke outrage to attract listeners. That's not my goal, and I don't enjoy living in a state of constant frustration. Instead, I'm for open, balanced discussion that explore different angles of a topic related to technology. I'm for open and frank conversations. I'm thinking about what advances in technology can have the most impact on Americans, and I want to talk about that. Besides AI, some of my early topics will likely include school, education, possibly transportations. I have done many presentations in front of people on technical topics in my career. I feel like seeing faces makes it so much easier to do a presentation. And that's why I feel like podcasting is somewhat challenging, because I can only imagine who I'm talking to and I don't see people. And I don't get that instant feedback that it feels so gratifying when you present it to people and you share in your knowledge. My goal was always to be well prepared in advance, practice, but leave some room for improvisation. And that, I hope, what this podcast would feel like. You feel like I was prepared. You feel like I am describing technology well, but also I stumble a little bit here and there and maybe repeat myself. And that is the reason why I leave some room for improvisation. I feel like that makes a radio-like conversation more real. As far as my presentations in front of people go, I have done it probably 30, 40 times over a decade, from mid-2000 to mid-2010s. I used to average maybe 3 or 4 presentations a year, and I tremendously enjoy them, even though they required me spend infinite number of hours, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, to be ready for them. A few closing thoughts. I want to thank both of you for listening. Yes, jokes will be a thing on this podcast. Though, let's be honest, I might be the only person listening. In the next episode, I'm planning to talk about AI. I hope it will be partly educational and provide a solid introduction to those who are unfamiliar or vaguely familiar with the field. We'll explore what AI actually is and what it is not, where it's heading, where it came from, and how it is shaping our world on a day-to-day basis. Thank you again, and have a great day.